Still preparing the live. Here we go. Perfect. All right. We are live on eXp Family Tree. Hi, everyone. We still got people joining in. I'm going to shut off that little beep so it doesn't keep bothering us, Peter. And I'll monitor when people are joining in because I have a feeling we're going to have more people even as the time goes on. So a few of you are familiar. It looks like maybe a few new people, which is awesome. Some of you have met Peter Pessetto, some of you have not. So if you haven't, you're in for a very pleasant surprise. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. Peter is one of my business partners here at eXp. He also owns a company that has a phenomenal technology called Follow Up Speed, which I'm actually using. And so I'm excited about that for you know, the knowledge and the system that he has brought to my business. He also is going to be really becoming more active here in eXp Family Tree in the upcoming months, which I'm excited about. He is a coach, a trainer. He's been in the real estate industry for a long time, which is how he ended up getting passionate about follow-up systems, because it's usually and most often the number one thing that realtors and any entrepreneurs, business owners have a challenge with. And yeah, so I'm excited that Peter's here with us today. So we're gonna have some good conversation. So Peter, what do you got cooking today?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm loving being back, like presenting with you, you know what I mean? Like just doing group stuff. It's awesome. Cool to see a couple of the same faces. Chrissy, unfortunately, is not at the beach. She's showing off her seatbelt today. She's not in
Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico. So yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and put in the comment section where you guys are coming from, that's awesome. I love connecting with people. I am in the Hudson Valley area of New York. I am very specific. There are people that are like, oh, I'm from New York, because they want to try to be from the city. I have no desire to hold myself out as somebody that's from the city. I'm kind of a country boy myself. So Jeff's from Greenville, spent a little time down there. I saw, let's see, Lisa's in Central Jersey. You got Charleston, South Carolina is one of my all-time favorite places right there. That's awesome.
I can't wait till I get to go there and visit.
Oh my gosh, go hungry and bring money and eat your way across Charleston. Right? Because there's a lot of great food. My favorite thing I've ever seen in Charleston was a shirt that said it's a drinking town with an historical problem. Yeah, that kind of sums up Charleston. A lot of fun to be had. But I kind of wanted to pick up where we were a couple of weeks ago. Amy, I see you on the call. Chrissy was here. Candace, I think, was with us a couple of weeks ago. We talked about role playing and objection handling and all that stuff. And I'd just love to know, has anyone gotten a chance to do any role plays around any of the objections that they've had in the last couple of weeks? So I'm very much sort of an open source. So go ahead and pull off mute. You know, just let me know, like, have you done any role plays, or do you have an objection that has been coming at you that you thought about afterwards? Because I'd love to hear them. So Amy.
I've been practicing trying to handle the objection of I can't list my house because there will be no place to go.
Okay.
And working on all of that.
Yeah.
It's flowing more naturally, but still a work in progress.
So remember, there's two emotions, right? In every objection, there's pain and pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay. So the pain is the not knowing where they're going to go. One of the things that I like to do is just find out where their other pain is. So like if you've done a quick CMA on their house and it came out at 352, and you just took a pen and put a big mark across the 3 and put 452 and say, what is the difference there? Is it still a problem at that number? You know what I mean?
That's an excellent approach.
Right. And just, you know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe they'd go if we could sell for 100 grand more, we'd go live in a hotel.
Right.
Okay. So not finding somewhere to live isn't necessarily the challenge. Am I right? Is that what I'm hearing you say? You know what I mean? And just repeat it back to them. So I love that you've been practicing. Guys, I can't stress this enough. The objections that you're getting, there's probably 3 to 5, 3 top ones, 3 to 5 that you're going to get at any given point in real estate. Sometimes it's for sale by owner. Sometimes it's, I've got a friend in the business, my cousin, all that stuff. And having it that you practice it on a consistent basis and put that answer on your phone until your kids know it better than you do. Okay. And practice it until your kids know it better than you do. And practice it. So anyone else? Amy, do you have another one that you want to practice, or you just want to shoot at us? Because we'd love to hear one. Lisa, do you have any objections that you're getting that you'd love to just hear how somebody else role plays it? Not right now. Okay.
Well, it's interesting what you just did, Peter, if you don't mind, while people are thinking, because I think there's
Sure.
some people here that probably are going to come up with one. We just got to give them a minute. I think that what you did when you did the 450, you crossed out the 350 and you did the 450. What I love about that approach is what you're trying to figure out is what they're telling me is the objection. Is it really the objection? Because yes, you're worried that you don't have a place to move to. However, there is a point when that worry is not as important anymore and you'll deal with it and you'll go do whatever you have to do. And what is that point? And then that brings around another conversation, because now you could say, okay, so for the right amount of money, you'd be willing to be inconvenienced with not knowing where to go or having to do a hotel or whatever. And so then that might actually, create other conversations around, so where will you go? If you could just pick a home and a home was on the market for you, let's just pretend we're in an opposite market where there's, a plenty of listings. Like, what does that look like? And let them imagine where they're moving to. And the reason I say that is because I had a conversation recently with somebody about this. And one of the things was they were not necessarily tied to geography. And the more that we understood about where they'd be willing to move, then there were some other opportunities and the price was a bit lower. And there was some things there that made a big difference. And so maybe you can't get them 450 on the house here, but where they're going, if it's different than they envisioned, it's still closing the gap. And it still means that they are reducing a payment, or they're paying off debt and keeping a same payment, or they're doing something that really impacts their life. And they can now envision and see that there are some creative solutions or opportunities. And some people have said, well, man, I didn't even think I would move there, but maybe I would, because think about what this would do for our life if we could make that change. And I think what Peter shared just gets them talking. It gets you to a place where you're not stopped anymore and you don't know where to go. It gets them to keep talking and to start a conversation that might take you down a different path. That's all you need them to do, because otherwise they're just saying, no, I'm not moving because I don't know where to go. And then you have nothing, then you have nowhere to go from there. That's just it. And so what Peter did got them to think differently and got them to open up. And now the conversation, who knows where it leads to, right? And that's kind of the case, Peter, with any objection, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's especially, whatever they tell us is usually, and I'm going to put a link in the chat in just a second. It's usually what they're going to give you the objection that they think is going to make you go away the fastest. Okay. So when somebody gives you an objection, they don't give you an easy objection to see if you can handle it. They give you the objection that they think is going to make you go away. And again, it's a request for more information. So, being able to say, well, I appreciate that. And look, if this number was 100,000 more, I would live out of a North Face tent for 4 months for 100 grand. Like, you know what I mean? You can do a
but
lot
you enjoy that, so that's not fair.
Yeah, but
anyway,
you can go rent a 36-foot full-on RV for 1,000 a week. You know what I mean? So I'll trade that for 16 grand. Like 100 grand for 16 grand. Okay. It's little things like that. There's a website, and guys, if you have the problem, there's probably somebody out there in the tech world that's looking at solving the problem. So there's a guy that I met. I'm in a coaching group for what they call SaaS entrepreneurs. And he's actually in the real estate, but we're more in a SaaS group. So it's about building SaaS companies, software as a service or system as a service. And he created something called Home IQ Report. I'm going to put it in the chat. I have vetted this company. I've got clients that are using it. It's a really great company. You can put in the chat, you can put in your, let's say you just put in your whole database in there, names, addresses, and stuff like that. It will pull public information and it will tell you on any given date what who in your database is getting ready or is most likely to sell soon. It actually rates them 1 through 10. And they pop up like 8s, 9s, and 10s. Now, in order to get access to it, it's a paid service for lenders. And what they do is lenders will go out and partner with agents, but maybe your lender wants to check it out and partner with you. The lenders that I've had that have checked it out and are using it have seen other things out there, but they're like, this is so much better and it's a fraction of the price. So, you might be able to go to your lender and say, look, I know I'm your favorite real estate agent, but I'm probably not your only real estate agent partner. If you've got multiple people using this, it might be an opportunity for you to find deals. This is, I was on the phone with a CEO and one of my business partners, and the CEO pulled up my business partner's mom's house in California that they had been at for almost 40 years and was able to tell him in about 15 seconds the likelihood of them selling or refinancing. And he's like, it's funny you should say that. We're actually thinking about refinancing. Like it just pops up. It's crazy sharp. So a lot of technical stuff out there that could help you make much more specific phone calls. So Amy, I'm assuming that you have sold a listing or two in the last year. Fair to say?
Fair to say.
Okay. So have any of the listings that you have sold in the last 12 months had that same objection?
Yes.
Okay. And they had a positive result?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Guys, I'm going to teach you a very simple formula that you want to use every time you ask for a testimonial. And Amy, what I would do is I would go back and get some testimonials. Okay. And it's 3 questions. Okay. What were your fears? So the first question, what were your fears? Second, what was your experience? And the third question is, what was your result? That easy. What were your fears? What was your experience? And what was your result? And so, I'm just going to pick on Chrissy since she's live. So Amy goes back to Chrissy and says, Chrissy, I know you had thought a little bit about selling. You weren't really sure. I've got some other people that are in the same situation. I was wondering if I could just ask you 3 questions and then share your answers with some of the clients that I have to help them make a decision. People love to help people. Okay, especially in our world in the United States, we are addicted to helping other people. So you just say, this is going to help other people be able to make the decision. And so the next time you're talking to Lisa and she's like, my husband and I really don't want to sell. Well, you know what? Chrissy had the same experience and she was kind enough to just share something with me. Would you mind if I shared in her words what she had said? Her original fears were the same as yours. This was her experience and this was her result. If you wait for homes to be on the market, what do you think that does to your current situation? Right? I'm going to take them all the way back. Let them play. I always, there was a bold law when I was teaching bold at KW that I love. which is people grow into the conversations that we have around them. One of my all-time favorite axioms that I live by. So I always want to grow somebody into a conversation where I treat them as very intelligent. So I'm gonna go back, Mr. Seller, look, you're a smart person. You understand supply and demand. If there's a lot of supply, what does that do to the demand of your house? And what does that do for your family overall? If you're able to get that price or maybe a little bit less, that's okay to you, but it takes 6 months to do it. And you live out of 20% of your stuff because everything else is in storage. Is that the type of household you want to live in for 6 months? If that's what it takes to sell a house. Look, I was very fortunate to be friends with Joe Williams, who's the Williams of KW. Okay. And he told me one time in the bottom of the market, like 2009, 2010, he goes, man, I don't know what everybody's stressing about. He goes, I've seen this market 3 times already. Okay. In real estate, what goes up must come down, and what goes down must come up. There is an equilibrium. For every month that we spend in a seller's market, we will eventually spend that same amount of time in a buyer's market. It is supply and demand. We have almost the exact same. If you look historically over the last 50 years, we have maintained a straight line. If you draw the median average of 67% of the US as a homeowner. When we get above that, we get into trouble, and then we go into foreclosures. We get below that, housing prices go down and people start buying. It's a pretty simple concept. So just take them there. Hey, you know what? You're a smart person. You understand the supply and demand. If there are a bunch of houses out there you could go make offers on, what does that mean for you? So, you know, like Carrie said, get them talking. Now, we talked about felt. We talked about feelings. One of the things that we want to be really careful with around the concept of talking about feelings is do not ask somebody how they felt unless you want them to go to that emotion. Because if I said to you, Carrie, what was it like? You know, how did you feel on your wedding day? Like, I'm asking it hypothetically, and her mind is already picturing it a little bit, isn't it, Carrie? Like you're smiling, you're happy. Like I took her to that emotion on purpose. If you're going to talk about a negative experience, instead of saying, how did you feel? We're going to use the what. What did you feel when? It allows somebody to look logically at their emotions and pull them apart a little bit and be able to talk about them. If I get into how did you feel when that happened, they're back in those emotions and they might not be able to process it or might not want to process it. So I'm very careful about talking to people about feelings and saying, how did you feel? Unless I absolutely know how they felt and I'm wanting to take them there in that conversation. Guys, questions, you cannot ask enough questions in this business. I got on a phone call today with a regional director with a big mortgage company. And I almost made the mistake of challenging them on something with a question or challenging them on something on a response. And I stopped and I was like, I remembered my seek to understand. And I was like, so tell me what's important about you guys doing that. And I thought they were making a mistake and they seemed like a pretty sharp group. So I was like, why are they doing this activity? Instead of me calling them out or asking why, because remember, we talked about 2 weeks ago, using the word why in a question put somebody's brain on the defensive. And I certainly didn't want to do that in a sales call. I said, tell me what's important about it. Tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me a little bit more about ... Oh, you gotta, I mean, that's the golden key right there. You can get people to open up about lots of things. Tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me a little bit more about what's important to you about that. Great stuff, right? I mean, this is stuff I wish that I had learned questions day one in real estate. That's it. I wish instead of teaching me about houses and shapes and sidings and contracts and stuff, teach me to ask questions. If I was going to train somebody tomorrow, the first month, all I would do is have them role play questions. That person will be so in control of conversations and be able to do whatever they want. And they'll come across as more confident.
Yeah, questions are huge. Maybe share, either unmute yourself and share a great question you ask that always works for you in a listing or buyer appointment or a cold lead call or whatever the case may be at an open house. Like, what are the questions that work for you? Or just chat them in the chat box, because that would be huge if we could hear each other's questions. And maybe it's a question we don't use that we could moving forward. So
I used to challenge my coaching clients, and every week I'd ask them, what was the best question you asked them the last week?
yeah, would love to hear.
I love it.
I just think in general, people like to talk about themselves and their own situations. They don't want to hear you talking. So like everything you've already said, I mean, I think the tell me more about that. How do what do you think about that? Getting them talking obviously gives you the most information and the most fuel to be able to help them.
Yeah. And you know what? I read something somewhere that when people talk more, they were doing a study and they were comparing people that went into interviews, and on purpose with the exact same people, same companies, same interviewers, they asked questions of how they thought the interview went. Like, how did you feel it went? And how did you connect with the person that was hiring? And always the person felt better about the appointment, left feeling energized, left feeling like they connected with the other person when they talked the most. Because that's just their perspective. It went great, and they were the one doing all the talking. When they were listening more, even though they were learning more, they actually felt like it went worse and they didn't feel connected. So just allowing them to talk gives them that feeling that they've even connected with you more. And partly, right, Peter, that's because they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel like you care, because you're doing more of the listening. Even though they actually need more of the information, it's not what they actually are going to feel good about. So that comes secondary, right?
100%. Amy, I like your question. I would say go a touch more specific. So that's what they call future pacing. Tell me more about what your life looks like a year from now in your new home. Tell me what life looks like with the new 2-car garage.
That is actually how I use it.
Brilliant. Awesome.
To get specific into whatever their dream is, so that I can kind of bring everything back to that when the going gets tough. So like, remember that we're gonna get you that 3-car garage, and you're not gonna have to be scraping the ice off when we get this powerful storm that's coming up on us today.
So did we talk last time, Carrie, about we talked a little bit about reticular activating system, right?
Maybe just touch on it at the end. So it would be good to go over that.
Okay. So I teach this as part of literally everything I do, because it plays a part in everything that we do. And it's how the brain works. And you have to understand that our brains all work the same way. Okay. Our brains, more normal mainstream functioning brains. I'm not talking about Stephen Hawking's and Einstein, right? Their brains are, a little on a different level, but for most of us, the people we're going to deal with, that anyone's brain, y'all's brain right now is bringing in 2 million bits of information subconsciously. Your brain is bringing in information of the feeling of your feet on the floor, but you're not concentrating on it because you're here. If we were all going to start meditating right now, we could all feel our breath. My brain knows that I'm breathing right now. My brain, if I focus on it, I can purposely push it to bring in certain information I want. So out of the 2 million bits of information per second that our brain is bringing in, the conscious brain filters all that 2 million down to about 140 bits, maybe 150. So it's over 42,000 decks of playing cards, the conscious brain filters down to 3 decks of playing cards. Why am I bringing this up now? It's because we look for evidence to support the reality that we believe. Okay. If you believe that coaching is helpful, you're going to come here looking for evidence that this coaching is helping you in your business. If you were dragged here against your will and you think coaching doesn't work, you're finding evidence right now that coaching doesn't work. Either way, you're right. You know, the old Henry Ford, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So let's now apply that to objection handling. If someone believes that they aren't going to be able to sell their house and they're going to live out of the shadiest motel in the city for 6 months, their mind is actively looking for information to support what they think is true. What we have to do is we have to transfer that, get them open to finding new information, and then give them the new information. And they're like, nothing's selling. Hey, I got a list of houses that have been on market for 30 days. Okay. We see certain evidence, they see certain evidence. Just because you see evidence more often of something doesn't mean it's true. Think about how many myths we thought about the coronavirus 2 years ago when it was all just about to start that turned out not to be true. Think about, let's go way back. All the people in, before Columbus, okay, when thought the earth was flat, they found evidence to believe that the earth was flat. They didn't have the information available to them to understand that the world wasn't flat. We have different evidence than they do, so we have to get them open to seeing it and then give it to them. We can't just come in pushing at it because their brains are already looking for the other evidence that it's not going to be possible. That's why I'm starting with a conversation of, well, cross out the number. Why am I doing that? Because they're telling me it's about money and I'm treating them as face value. It's not about money, but fine, let's make it about money for 5 minutes. Here, I'll put a 5 there. That change anything? Here, I'll put a 6 there. That change anything? Right now they're like, well, if I could get that. All right, let's say you could get that. What would we do? We know that housing, there aren't plentiful. So let's say you could get the 600,000 number for your house. Tell me, what would we do? If I brought you a contract, you had just signed it. You're now under contract at 600,000. What do you do next? What do you do after that? And now they're going to start giving me the evidence to handle their own objection. So I guys, reticular activating system, there's so much wrapped in that. Everything that we do, everything that you do right now, whether you believe you get to your goals, is all reticular activating system.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about this, I think, in a lot of our different calls, Peter, because, this has been kind of the story of my life. I mean, I change passwords, I put pictures up, whatever my goal is. I mean, my brain is like not able to forget that this is what I'm going for. And so it always finds the opportunities and the ways to get me there, whether I even know how it happened or not. A perfect example of that was when I was hired, to lead a market center. In my first year, I was asked to recruit 100 people to that office, and I never recruited a single soul in my life. So I had no idea what I was doing. And I also didn't know that 100 was that big of a number because my OP was a little sneaky and told me, he was like, everybody does this. This is no big deal. And I was like, okay, everybody does this. Apparently this is what I'm going to do too. And I have a little bit of a competitive spirit. So I was like, well, if everybody does this, I better do this. And so Recruit 100 was everywhere. Like I had to type it in every day to get in my computer. I mean, this is what was going to happen. And this is no lie. I really, the year was quite a blur. I did not do anything but focus on recruiting. I got so busy with appointments because opportunities just started showing up because I was focusing on it and I was looking for it. Even subconsciously, I was looking for it. And, it was like 4 days before the end of the year, I had 98 people and I was in a panic mode because when you get that close to a goal and you're not like, you're just like, this cannot be happening. I am not closing this year out with 98 when I'm this flipping close. And, my staff rallied around me because I casted that vision and it was our goal together. And we came up with 101 people. 3 people joined the last 2.5 or 3 days of the year. I don't even know how it happened. I mean, I still to this day was like, I'm not even quite sure. But it was very powerful. And to this day, I have used that same idea. Like I write this stuff down. I have pictures. I focus on it. I think of it every day from, doing my first mini triathlon that I did last summer because I was so terrified to swim. Like visualization, just like all of those things are so important because our brain is so powerful. I know Chrissy, who's on this call, I mean, she, really manifests everything and her business has just grown and grown and grown. And it's an interesting concept, but there is some science behind this. Our brain and the subconscious part of our brain is extremely powerful. And so one thing I've noticed, Peter, that I think is worth saying is whatever you are looking for, you will find. I mean, what you seek, you will find, period, whether it's good or bad or ugly. And what we don't realize is, and I've been in these modes before, when we aren't getting business, when we're not getting enough listings and we're thinking about the fact that we're not getting enough or we're not finding it, it's actually putting the thought in our mind that we're not finding enough. And then we're not going to find them. So you have to be very cautious because your mind can't determine between I don't want something and I want something. It just focuses on the something. So people will say to me, why is it that those people, it seems like those people where it's like one bad thing after another, after another, after another. It's just like, how does it ever just keep happening to them? You don't understand it because they're constantly thinking about what they don't want to happen because they're living in kind of a scarcity or a fearful mindset. So they're thinking about it and they're literally manifesting more to happen. And they don't know it because it's not conscious, it's subconscious. If we're looking at our bank account every day and we're saying we don't have enough, we will never have enough. We've got to be looking at it and going, this is what's going to show up in there. I'm looking for what I want, not what I don't want. So be very careful. Sometimes we don't know what our subconscious mind is saying to ourselves because it's like literally we don't even hear it. So what we have to do is assume if we're in a pattern of something that it is saying something we don't want. So we've got to go in and actually say the affirmations, journal every day, write it down, change our passwords, put notes up in our office or on our mirror in our bathroom. And we've just got to assume that we need to fill it with something that's positive that we're looking for, and it will overshadow and start to retrain your brain. I mean, this program is very powerful.
Yeah. So there's 3 things that are, if you boil it down to 3 big categories that the RAS is using as a filter: goals, habits, programming. Right. Just what Carrie's saying, goals, habits, programming. And, I was famous for making people throw up in the back of their mouth a little bit when I coached them. Like I felt like if I spent a day and I didn't make somebody throw up in the back of their mouth a little bit, like I didn't ask a hard enough question. But you're out there looking for a listing. You're going to spend an hour at some point between, in the next 24 hours. Spend an hour and challenge yourself to this assignment. If I had to list 10 homes in the next week, how could I do it? Not like if I had to get 10 homes listed, or I'm going to take away your real estate license.
Or like it's worth, like you have to, or you're losing your house. Like you have to go there because you would figure it out. That's the thing, Peter, right? Like, people would figure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. You put yourself back against the wall. But like, if I absolutely had to list 10 homes and it didn't matter price, it didn't matter condition, it didn't matter subdivision, I just had to list 10 homes in my market in the next week, what might I do differently than I'm doing right now? because you can't make 10 times as many calls. Right? So you're making calls, you're talking to your database, you're out there, you're networking, you're doing your normal lead gen stuff. But if you had to do 10 in the next week, what might you do differently? Like, for example, I might go into, when I was in Raleigh, we had an awesome deed of registrars. It was really searchable. And I could search for last names that owned multiple properties. Okay, so I could pull up, Briner is not a Smith name. Like I could pull up Briner, right? And I could pull up multiple things. And if Briner kept popping up, there's like 5 or 6 things. Okay, there's one person that owns 6 homes. Now, if I call 10 people like that, I've just had potentially 60 properties I'm talking about, as opposed to 10 calls that I've talked to people about. So just when you challenge yourself with these different thought assignments, and think about it like that, it's a thought assignment. It gets your brain out of the normal pattern that we all are in. We all have our patterns in life. We put our shoes on the same way. When we're in the shower, most of the time, it's all habits. Like we do this, then we do this, then we do this, then we grab the towel and we use it a certain way. We put our pants on right leg first, left leg first. It's all habits. We're all in patterns. So to break the pattern there, what would you do differently? I love that. That's, it's just fun stuff. What could you do? What would I do differently to list 10 homes? And then what will happen is your mind will actually start finding evidence. Like I just gave you a little bit of evidence, calling multiple property owners. Your mind will start finding evidence to solve the problem that you gave it. The mind makes a wonderful slave and a terrible master is one of the truest axioms of my life.
I just love this, Peter. I have to say, a couple weeks ago when you were talking about, coming from the pain versus pleasure emotion. So I had a client that I've been working on for about 2 months to list their home, and their objection was, we're just not going to find anything. We have to sell our house first. And so I took them into one of our builders here in Minnesota that does allow contingent offers. And so I walked in and I just kept asking those questions to them. How would you feel if you miss out on this opportunity because you didn't list your house now and you waited, And so as we walked through the house, they kept on finding more evidence, like you said. And it was amazing what happened 2 days after we left that model home. They're ready to list their house. They're ready to do it. So
Yes,
they figured it out
Candace.
themselves.
That's awesome. I love that. Very cool. Well done. Right. And was it that hard on your part? It was just probably a little bit different, slightly different than you're normally doing, but you were just asking questions, right?
Right. And utilizing, the ability, like we have that builder here and they're the only ones that I know of that take contingent offers. So finding that solution and hearing them pitch it, and I'm just in there making connections with these people and trying to build my relationship with the builder too. So I'm kind of doing all these things at once. So it was great. It was awesome.
Love it. Love it when that happens, especially when we get a sale in the middle of the winter in Minnesota, no less.
Yep.
Right. So I had a parting gift for you guys last time. I'm going to do another one. I actually just got done, and Carrie, I'm filming it in the next 24 hours. 2 weeks from now, if you want me to come back and present it, I can, but I am building a class a self-guided class that you can go through that will help you build all your follow-up systems. That you can write them down, follow. It has the strategy, it has the do this, then do this, then do this. I will bring that back next time. But this time I did this with Jason the other day. He was one of the first to see this. But if you guys ever have had a challenge around time management, text the word quiz to 919-944-4393. And I got, just follow the questions. There's a little present waiting for you at the end of it. I have my priority management system class that I've used with all my coaching clients, exclusively for the last 4 years. I'm now going to be giving it away. So it's, that's the power of being inside this company now, which I can officially become part of the company now. So
Yay.
my license was inactive. I had to go take my real estate license test again. So I passed that. So now I can get unstuck from the turnstile.
That's right. Stop going around in circles. Yes, let's have you come back 2 weeks. You guys all join us, invite a friend, invite someone you're trying to attract to your business. If that is helpful to you, that's why we do these as well, not only for yourselves, but for others. Anybody is welcome to join us. As you know, this is just a collaborative group. This isn't about selling anything to anyone. So, and
Bring a
Peter is
friend.
obviously a plethora of information. And so, yeah, let's have you come back and teach that in 2 weeks, if you don't mind, Peter. We'll invite people. You can invite people. Obviously, it'll be a value for all of us. That would be fantastic.
100%. I got to jump to my next one. Thank you
Yes.
so much for having me. This is super cool. And I'll talk to you
next time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
See ya. Bye.
See ya. Awesome. Let's, as we're finishing up the call, ahas, things that you're going to go implement, something that you want to add. Don't be shy, you guys. Unmute yourself and let me know. We'll do that for a couple minutes and then we'll jump off.
I really liked his suggestion for the 3 questions on the testimonials,
Yes.
because it is super important as to how you ask those questions and the words you use. And that question about, or when he said, what did you feel? Don't ask, how did you feel? And that, yeah, that to me makes total sense. Because obviously you want a certain type of response and outcome from that. So making sure you're using the right words is important.
Yeah, words are incredibly important. You know, what I was thinking when I heard those 3 questions, what were your fears? What was your experience? And what were your results, or what was your result? It made me think, not only when people do decide to list their home and make a move in this market, or a buyer that was fearful they never find anything, or, and they did, or, somebody that joined your team, or that joined us at EXP and joined our group, and they were fearful of this, and this is what their experience has actually been, and this is how it's changed their business or life. Whatever the scenario, the more that we can tell other people's stories that had the same fears and thoughts that they did, it is so much more powerful than us telling them that we can help them overcome that fear and we can get them to a certain result. Yeah, we can tell people that until we're blue in the face, but it's not the same until they hear and they see somebody else who went through it. Right. I think that is massively powerful.
You know what? I'm just going to interject one more thing, just because I had this great idea while we were just talking about this. Like, how beneficial would that be? I mean, obviously not all clients would be willing to do it, but what about the handful that would be willing to just do like a video interview with you? Like, even if you had one of those asking these questions, think of how many times you could use that. So there are some of your clients out there that would be willing to do that. So it's just an idea.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I thought of that too. How do we ask that question? So I think that what people want to do is they want to help other people naturally, innately, as human beings. We'd like to help if we could.
Yeah.
So if we can go to a client that we just know they were really nervous, they got through it, they're on the other side, it was a great opportunity for them, we built a good rapport with them. If we went to them and said, you know how hard this market is, you've been through it. I know, from the very beginning of our conversations to where you are today has really been awesome for me to be part of. I was super blessed to be part of it. And there are so many people out in our area that are fearful and aren't doing something because they felt just like you. And I'm trying to help them to understand that this is a possibility. And just knowing your story may help some people be able to finally have the courage to do something that they really need to and want to do or should do. Would you be willing to give me just 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your time? And, this is my intention of using it if you're open to it. I mean, you could probably ask that to 20 past clients, and I bet you would have at least a quarter of them, if not half of them, that would say yes, even if they were uncomfortable being on video, simply because you shared with them why you're doing it and that they could actually help somebody else. They will want to do that innately.
Right.
So that's how I'd ask.
Yeah, I like that.
You could jump on a Zoom with them, you can record it, and then you can edit it a little bit. And you can use it. And I mean, think about this. How powerful would it be if you could send that after you went out to an appointment, or you talk to somebody and they're like, I want to do it, but I just can't because here's why. And it's like, this is your follow-up email. I mean, what an amazing email. Like, it's not you trying to talk them into anything. It's like, I heard you, I understand your concern. I feel for you. This is a tough market. This made me think of some clients of mine that were willing to share their story because they felt the same way and they knew it would help somebody else. I think it might help you. Take a watch. I mean, that's genius, really.
I like it.
All right, awesome. Jason, you're raising your hand.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Okay. Just want to make sure there's no background noise. I think like the takeaway is it just kept bringing me back to something that I had read a little while ago, and it was Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. And it's when people tell you things, no matter what here, like we're talking real estate specific, obviously, or agent traction, but they'll never move, or I can't sell my house because, or I have to sell my house before I can buy the next one. Well, is it true? Is it 100% true? Can you find evidence that it's not true? And eventually you do land somewhere where there is this alternate answer. You know, like I'm an example of he'll never leave his agency. Well, that happened a month and a half ago. So, or you can't call that client with all that land and that house to sell because he only works with this person. Well, I just don't listen well. And I did call and we list that property in those 30 lots this coming year. So it's just not true. When people say that, like there's no evidence to say that it's absolutely true. And there's also, and I think exploring that with people gets them to their own outcome, the positive one. Because when they're saying, I can't sell my house, there's nothing to buy. Well, that's not true because over 7 million homes sold last year. So there was something to buy.
Somebody moved. Yeah.
So like, let's put you in the position where you're actionable on those things. And I think as agents, like, you know, I don't want to put my house on the market because I'm not a strong buyer until I sell it. Well, let's find a solution for that. And, you know, locally we have a couple, I know there's some national versions of that, like they'll buy the house for you. You just owe them 1% of your house when you sell it, which realistically is a pretty good deal. Because you're going to get 5 or 6 or 8% in our market over your asking price at least anyway. So just give 1% of that up. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to be educated to know these solutions. Yeah. If you haven't read the book, Loving What Is by Byron Katie, by the way, it's a powerful book for your life. And then you can apply it to business, like Jason just said, which is there's a series of questions. And all it does is it makes you question your own thinking, which, by the way, your thoughts are not real things anyway. And most of the time they're not true. And if you realize that I can ask myself the question about what I'm thinking is just as true as the opposite of what I'm thinking. There is no validity there. So if I start questioning it, that's when I actually get to some logical answers. Most people don't take their thoughts out of their mind and actually question them. You can help them do that. And everything that we're talking about here is fear-based, right? It's fear-based, which is what the egoic part of our mind does, is it puts things in our mind that make us fearful so that we don't do things that could put us in harm's way or make us uncomfortable or put us at risk. And so it's constantly over exaggerating those things to make us just stay comfortable and stay in our house and not move and not do anything different, because that's what it thinks we need to do. But obviously our mind doesn't know what's best for us, because staying the same, staying in mediocrity, not taking a chance, that is not what is good for us. It's actually what causes a lot of people to feel really bad about themselves, right? So what we have to do, and this is just a fascinating conversation, you guys, because this is going away from tactical real estate sales to like understanding the way we operate and the way we think and how we do things as a human being. And if you're going to be a powerful consultant in anything, including real estate, this is the space you're willing to dive into and tap into a little bit, because other people are not doing it. Yeah. Love it. All right, you guys, great conversation. This is recorded. So if you want the recording, email me, work chat me. I can send it out, but it is live streamed in our EXP family tree. So you can always watch it there live anytime as well. But if you wanted to maybe pass this on to someone else for agent attraction, or, people that you're just trying to show, like, you guys, we do great things for other people. This is our community. This is the training that we get. Feel free to send it to them. They will see the value here. They know that we're trying to grow our organizations just like every other organization is in the industry and always has. But this is a way that we can show them the cool things that we do every single week. So, but also maybe you want to give it to those in your group already and bring them some training if they didn't get to attend live. So work chat me, email me, and otherwise I'll see you guys back here next week on Wednesday. In 2 weeks, we'll have Peter back next week. I'm going to be bringing some other, thanks to Chrissy's suggestion, who's on the call here actually, and I'd been thinking about this and just didn't execute on it until she reminded me, which was some of the opportunities and the companies and the affiliates and the vendors and just some of the things that we have access to here at EXP. I'm going to actually bring some of those people into this group so that we can actually learn about them, hear about them, figure out how to work with them to help us impact our business. So we're going to do that every so often as well, just depending upon who we can get in and when. Watch for more of that. But if you keep showing up, I'm sure that we'll have lots of great things to share. And sometimes we'll just mastermind on what we're learning together, which is great too. So I really appreciate you guys joining me. Look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget about our huddle on Monday. Have a great weekend, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Lisa.